Hi, everybody. Amy Walker here, and welcome to the CEO Spot. This is the place to be for getting the information that you need to be able to grow your business. And this is one of our interview segments. So today I've got Abhi Golhar on with me. Thank you so much for being here, Abhi.
Hey, thanks for having me, Amy. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we are going to have a great conversation today about how to grow your business so that you're actually growing something that isn't just a job and you're not a slave to the work in the company. So let me introduce you, give you Abhi's formal fancy pants introduction. So Abhi is a real estate investor. He's an entrepreneur, a consultant, a coach. He's a radio host and media figure. And he works with entrepreneurs to help them be able to create a business that they really, truly love to run. So he helps investors, he helps them diversify, and he helps them create something that is not just going to be a job that they get stuck in, but that they can create something where they're working on their business, or they're working on their business, not just in it. I did say that right. I got halfway through and I was like, am I saying that backwards? So let me tell you a couple of specifics here. So he runs multiple different platforms. He's the chief investment officer of Summit and Crown. It's an Atlanta-based real estate investment firm that has a large presence in media. And he has two daily radio shows, the Abhi Golhar Show and Think Reality Radio, alongside his blog on YouTube. And he has really utilized the media to help him grow his business. So he has been heard on the Wall Street Business Network for more than 6,000 listeners in 35 major networks. And his Abhi Golhar Show can be heard live during your morning drive in the Atlanta area on Biz 1190 WAFS. So Abhi, welcome. We're so excited to have you here today.
Super excited. I don't know, I think my PR gal did an awesome job putting all of that together. So I'm just like, you know what? Hey, kudos to you. I'm just trying to keep up. I hope I live up to everything that was said. So.
Well, I think this is one of the reasons we should all do radios, because somebody needs to read all the great accomplishments we have so we can remember them, be like, oh yeah, I have done that. Yep, I have done that. So that's why everyone should do interviews. Gives you a little boost, pat on the back.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, so I want to start off by just getting to meet you and letting our listeners and viewers get to meet the man. So how did you get started in business and entrepreneurship and real estate?
Boy, I would say, so I've always had a inkling to jump into something entrepreneurial. I remember even back when I was in high school, I created a early geek squad. And this was when computer towers were this big, a foot and a half off the ground. You could swap out floppy drives. You remember the 3 1/4 floppy, and then of course the larger floppy disks and the CD-ROM drives, the DVD. And so what my neighbor and I did was we created Max Technologies. Now this was a brainchild of ours. We said, hey, listen, we have a lot of old people in our neighborhood who want to buy computers, but they don't know how to service them in the event that something goes wrong, both from a hardware perspective and a software perspective. And I remember being really inspired one night. Barbara Walters did a 2020 interview with an individual who was in Chicago, and he was driving around his car and he was going from one flea market to the other, buying inventory and then selling this inventory on eBay. And I thought, geez, that seems like something that I can scale. So I wanted to create something similar. We ended up creating Max Technologies, and as a high school kid, we earned 20 or 25 bucks an hour, and we were booked through with clients. It was insanely profitable, but it taught us a lot of lessons at a very young age. So that's where my entrepreneurial career began. I mean, I grew up in a blue-collar city, in a blue-collar town with blue-collar mom and dad, right? Very hardworking. My dad's a professor. My mom was a housewife. She She could have worked in banking, but decided, you know what, she wants to raise us crazy kids anyway. I'm the oldest of two, my younger brother, the less intelligent, terrible looking one. I
Nice.
love him, man. It's this constant competition. So we grew up
I
in
have five boys. I understand constant boy competition. I'm like,
yes.
not everything is a competition, guys. Really, eating cereal, not a competition, but
Right.
yeah.
It's just like who can shovel it in your mouth as quickly as possible. So that's where I got a lot of my entrepreneurial skills when I just first started out in high school. Decided then, you know what? I like working with my hands. I like technology. I like software and I like hardware. Let's go ahead and apply to engineering school. Now, I wasn't forced or anything into engineering school. This is something that I myself wanted to do because a lot of Asian families have that stigma. It's like, hey, my kid needs to be either a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much wanted to do this myself. I went to the University of Michigan, graduated in 2006, but I realized even then, wait a minute, being a desk monkey for the rest of my life doesn't sound appealing, like
Right.
at all. And I discovered a lot about myself my first two semesters. My first semester, though, was my most important one. I was part of the Square Root Club. Do you know what the Square Root Club is?
I do not, but it
Okay.
sounds like you and I would have been friends in high school because I went to the state math tournament in high school.
Okay.
And I can only imagine the Square Root Club is a little bit similar. So
So do you know how bad high school was for me? I was such a nerd. There was a girl that asked me out to prom and I said no because I had science Olympiad that day.
I got asked to homecoming once and I said no because I had also been invited to the awesome symposium. It was awards for women in science, engineering, and math. And so, yeah, I get it. I
Hey,
feel you on this
nerds
one.
unite right there. Look at
Yeah,
that. Boom.
nerds.
So I lost my train of thought. So what are we talking about? Like I'm just
We were
totally.
talking about, you were talking about just getting started as an engineer, but realizing that you didn't want to be the desk monkey for the rest of your life.
Yes. So I had all this experience when I was a kid and I thought, well, geez, you know what? Like I'm going to do something different. And we started Max Technologies. That was in high school. When I graduated college, I'm sorry, my freshman year of college, we were getting to the Square Root Club. It's where the square root of your GPA is actually higher than your GPA. Okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 2 is, right? And then the only way that that's possible is if your GPA is less than 1.
Got it.
Math nerds out there.
Square
So
root club. Okay.
yeah, and I couldn't like take that GPA home to mom and dad, so I decided to cry in a corner until my buddy Tommy said, "Hey, you need to pick me up." And I said, "Great." So he threw over a copy of a book and it landed right at my feet. It was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And I read
Love that book.
It's like if you're listening to this and you're a regular listener and viewer of Amy's show, like watch this book. She does incredible work on her show, but like this is one of these books that you absolutely need to read and just internalize. So that semester I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cashflow Quadrant, Guide to Investing, and I'd been reading, like Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street and all this stuff, and I realized there's definitely something wrong in the world with people that, or at least for me, my perspective of people that were working. Not saying that's a bad thing, it's just not for me. And I decided to invest in real estate in inner city Detroit, cut my teeth in like inner city Detroit, like the bluff inner city Detroit.
That's
like
hardcore.
Like hardcore, like Eminem style, like this, right? It was really tough, but I learned a lot then too. So fast forward to where we are today. I have a fund. It's called the Summit and Crown Fund. We acquire multifamily apartment complexes and take a financial position in them. And I love investing in businesses. I love investing in startups. And most importantly, I really love sharing a pathway for business owners to get from, say, here to here and realize that you don't have to work in your business for the rest of your life. You can set up your business so that, you know what? You can have a lifestyle, because that's why you build a business to begin with and then finish well financially.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like I've been having this conversation a lot lately where and part of it is the client population that I've been working with recently. They are professional entrepreneurs. So, went to school for a long period of time to become lawyers, doctors, orthodontists, and such. And then they get into starting the business and they realize, first of all, they're equipped with their skill, but they're not as equipped in business. And secondly, they just have a job working for themselves. And so they're looking at it, trying to figure out, how do I create a lifestyle? Because in their mind, they told themselves the story that if you'll just work hard through school, then you're going to have the life that you want. But then they get out of school and they realize, no, actually, I'm a little bit tied to the business and I'm not traveling and I'm not taking vacations, and, the money's there, but the lifestyle's not. So I really want to dig into this conversation about how do we build a company and multiple opportunities for us to be able to earn money through multiple places without being tied to the desk all the time. Because I've been there too, and you really lose the joy in the journey. It's not that fun.
No, absolutely. And like you eloquently said, I mean, you see this a lot from the medical profession, not only doctors, DOs, NPs, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, they're all overworked, underpaid. And you take a look at even attorneys as well. You look at what the objective is. What's the objective? If you love law or if you love the healthcare business, then keep doing that. Neither Amy nor I we're not saying quit that altogether and go become a full-time investor. Do it because you choose to do that, not because you have to do that. Do it because you want to do it. And the way that you get there is one, starting with awareness, right? What is your objective? Where do you want to be? And let's face it, I'm 34. I don't have, I'm not interested in working all the way until I'm 60, 61, 62. There was an ad on Netflix, I think I saw the other day, either Netflix or Hulu, and it has this 85-year-old lady. She's holding a fire hose because she has to go back to work. There's a 75-year-old or 78-year-old gentleman who says, hey, I have to go back and start a lawn mowing business because I have to work. You should not, if you're listening to this right now, you should not, that is like a failure of your business if you end up in this position. So one, awareness. Two is business systems. You need a system. If you're doing everything, guess what? The likelihood of you working in your business versus on your business is very high, and that's a very dangerous position to be in. I'm not saying don't work in your business. I'm saying you have to have a good balance of both, because when you work on your business, you're identifying areas of opportunity, areas of growth, and areas of revenue that you can bring in and then champion other people to own that opportunity and grow that business. You need to groom other people as well. So I can keep talking about this forever.
No, I just had this conversation with one of my clients. We've been working together for 2 years. I said 2. We're starting our 3rd. That's where the 3 came from. We've been working together for 2 years. And when she started, she was a practitioner who was barely making any money. Now she's grown her business to over $30,000 a month in revenue. Super proud of her. But what she is feeling is burnout. And she's like, I know we want to grow, but I'm tired and I don't feel like I have more to put in. And I said, that's because you're still putting yourself in the driver's seat in every area of your business. So of course you're tired. Of course you're going to be worn out. It's time to take that team member that you've been grooming for 2 years and elevate her into a position where she can do more of the work for you. So I want to ask the question to all of the listeners who are watching, all of our viewers. If you could take away a piece of your business, you could automate it, systematize it, or put someone else over it, what would you want to take on next? Because I love watching really successful business owners, really successful entrepreneurs. They do not just have one business. They have their hands in multiple different places, and their role is not to be the one who does the stuff in each business. So you have positioned your business that way, where you have your hand in a lot of different places and you have multiple revenue streams. Do you want to talk about what your role is as the entrepreneur that's creating lots of different revenue in lots of different places?
So part of it is getting out there and talking about it, right? So you have to put yourself in a position of visibility, and you have to put yourself in a position of vulnerability and say, listen, I know that I don't know everything, but at the end of the day, I can grow and learn. If we take that accountability to ourselves every morning, guess what's going to happen? We're going to connect with awesome people like you, Amy. And now we can take that conversation further, even offline, and say, hey, what are you working on? What am I working on? What opportunities exist? Very similarly, if you buy a Lexus, or if you buy a Toyota Camry, or you go out and buy your favorite car, guess what you see on the road everywhere? That favorite car. That you just bought the car. How did everybody else buy the same car? So
and you never noticed it before, and then as soon as you have it, all of a sudden you see it everywhere.
I'm the same way with my glasses. So I'm very loyal to Warby Parker. I love the style, love the design. It's great. And so I'll go to like Starbucks, or I'll make fun of the cashier or something. I'm like, whoa, you're a Warby Parker like believer. I love those frames, and I just see them everywhere. So being open and honest to the opportunity, that's for me, awareness. That steps 1 and 2. Step number 3 is executing and taking action. Don't worry about stuff. Don't think about doing stuff too often. Otherwise, it's going to be like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do. It's not going to get you anywhere. And you feel like you're making a lot of motion, but really you're not making forward progress. Right now, it's a really good time, right? We're transitioning years. It's the end of 2018, going into 2019. What better time right now to take stock of where you are in your business, where you want to be, what you're tracking for in 2019, what goal do you have by December 31st of 2019, and then working that backward quarterly, working that quarterly goal backward monthly, working that monthly goal backward weekly and then daily to see what kind of production we need. Now, if there's one thing, the greatest wealth generator, okay, the greatest wealth generator that we all have is money.
Our brains.
It's yes.
Okay, money.
Well, no, I mean
that too.
I think that's probably the first one.
If you have a great enough idea, you can create money with it, and then you can use your money to create more money. But I think that's where people get stuck. They go off of that. I have to use my hands and my physical self to create opportunity.
Right. Totally. If you can think it, you can dream it, you can believe it, and what you think becomes your reality. So if you don't use your brain to your biggest advantage, then that's an issue. We're our best friends and our worst enemies, right? Like I caught myself the other day looking at the mirror and saying, wow, I am awesome. And then not like fully believing it. So that tells my mind, well, wait a minute. He's saying these things, but he's not backing it up with the belief that he actually is. So pay attention to what you're saying to yourself, pay attention to that vocabulary, and take stock of where you are right now. If your business is in a position where it's doing 50, 60, 70, 80, in your friend's case, $30,000 a month, which is incredible, by the way, that's $360,000 a year, back out taxes, keep your living expenses the exact same. Don't increase that. Don't go all crazy on like, well, Black Friday just passed, but don't go all crazy for like holiday, nutball shopping. Keep it as close to a minimum as you can and invest the rest. Now, what does that do? You have your income, which is one of your biggest wealth drivers. Your mindset is right there, number 1 and number 2. And you're now able to use your income to identify sources of opportunity that you can dial into that you are not operating, that you're investing in. And even if that's within your business, Warren Buffett says it the best. He says, don't diversify a whole lot, focus. But here's the thing, you can diversify within your niche area and you can create multiple streams of income, say in your healthcare business. As an attorney, you have an ebook, you have speaking gigs, you have side consulting gigs, helping other attorneys build their own practice. You can do the exact same thing in the healthcare space. If you're a plumber, if you're Joe the plumber, that happens to me on radio all the time too, by the way. I just make up. If you're Joe the plumber in this case, right? Like you can create additional income streams. You just have to be a little creative. And part of that creativity, you can even build and learn by listening to awesome people like Amy.
Well, thank you. And I think one of the things that's so important is we need money that is not proactive work. We really need our money to be making money for us. And I was listening to a speaker a couple of years ago, and he said this. He said, he's like, I'm so rich, my money makes money. And it was funny the way that he said it. But I remember listening to that and being like, well, I make money, but my money doesn't make money. So I must be missing a piece to the puzzle here because
Yes.
I make it and that's as far as I go. And I realized this year that I've gone through phases. So I don't want to disparage that, but I have gone through phases. So the first phase was it took me a long time to figure out how to make money. Really, truly. That was a big hurdle for me to really understand how to make money. Then I had to learn how to manage the money that I was making. And then the next level is now how does your money make money? And I think far too many business owners, if they took themselves out of the work, there's not any more cash flow coming through. And that's not really security. That's not really something that can be passed on. It's not even really a business that's easy to sell. So I do think that we need to look for these ways that we can bring more revenue into our lives without it being active, have to be in the office, have to be working with the client, boots on the streets type money. So totally. I want to transition a little bit into real estate because I'm sure some of our listeners are interested in that direction.
Yeah.
What do you recommend for people when they're wanting to get started? First books to read, first websites to visit, first steps to take. What's the beginning look like?
So this is a topic that I'm just massively passionate about. If there's one thing that you get from the real estate discussion of the show today, it's this. Real estate gives you 5 things that no other asset class gives you. 1, income. 2, depreciation. 3, equity. 4, appreciation. And 5, leverage. It's the word ideal: income, depreciation, equity, appreciation, and leverage. There's no other asset class in the world that will give you that, period. And so the best way that you can take a look at getting into this world is single family rentals. People look at like HGTV and they'll say, I want to flip this house. But really what people are saying is, I want to buy a house at 9 o'clock. I want to have it rehabbed by 3. And then I want to sell it by 6 p.m. And then I want the profit to be $100,000, right? Like that's what I want. Right. That's what I want. But is that realistic? I mean, come on, Amy, that's not realistic. You see all the gray hair? Like these are like the questions that I get on a regular basis. No, that's not realistic. That's no longer realistic. It may have been a couple of years ago, not anymore, especially not the day turnaround on a flip. So what can you do? The greatest thing that you can do to build wealth in America is to own as much of it as possible. Single family rentals is a really good way to go. I have a fund. We invest in multifamily apartment complexes. And so I like multifamily real estate. We'll buy 100 units, 50 units, 60 units here and there. But for the person just starting out, just like entrepreneurship, what do you need to get practice in? Right? You need to get practice in the vocabulary of real estate. I can't go out and be a physician overnight because guess what? I don't have the training and I don't have the vocabulary. I'm not going to go become a star basketball player. Well, quite frankly, I'm 5'5", so that's not going to work. But
you got me beat by 1.5 inches, so you're tall in my book.
Right, there we go. Right, my wife would say the same thing. She's 5'1", I think, too, or 5 foot something. And so, have you seen the movie Coach Carter by any chance?
I don't think I've seen that one.
In that movie, and for those of you that have seen it, you'll know exactly the scene I'm referring to. He's introduced to the team that he's taking over for the first time. And he says to the team, listen, I can't teach you the game of basketball until you're conditioned to play the game of basketball. For the rest of the day, he had them doing suicides and sprints up and down the court. Very similar, if you want to get involved in the real estate game, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, Guide to Investing, understand what your investment personality means to you. I've written a couple of books. I'm happy to give all of these books that I've written to your viewers and to your listeners for free. They can get in touch with me, no problem. But starting with me, starting with who I am as an investor, otherwise guess what happens? And Amy, let me tell you, there are so many gurus, right? When real estate is hot, real estate's on fire right now. There are so many people called gurus and experts that will come out and play and say, hey, Amy, let me share with you my top secrets in investing in real estate. But guess what? I need $50,000 so I can share with you my top secrets. You don't need that. I have a nationally syndicated daily radio show called Think Realty Radio. We talk about the strategies you need to succeed every single day on the Wall Street Radio Network. And it's so much fun for me to do that. It's a free resource if you just want to start tuning in. But listen to your inner voice, listen to what your personality is. Like, are you a Star Trek person? Do you like adventure? Maybe you like flipping. Do you like Wheel of Fortune? Do you like the consistent passive income? Because you know what's going to happen at the beginning of the show, the end of the show, and the middle of the show. Mm-hmm. What kind of personality are you? Start there, understand the objective, and hit go.
Well, and one of the things that I picked up in Rich Dad, Poor Dad that I thought was important as well is, you know, there's no one way that you have to build your wealth, but there is one way that you build wealth, which is you acquire assets instead of acquiring liabilities. So, you know, in that book, he goes through several different ways. And I remember listening to it and being like, okay, well, which ones do I really like? Which ones am I really interested in? And this is my confession. I look at MLS listings for fun everywhere I go. Right? Like, I'm sure in a past life, I was a realtor, and in a future life, I'm going to be a real estate investor because I love it. It's so, I just love seeing what the market's doing. I love going into a new place and looking at comps. And, you know, if I stay in a Airbnb, I'm like, I wonder how much this house is worth, you know, I love that. And so I think it's important to understand that, you know, you've got your business, which is where you work to create income, and you're working on growing it and, you know, getting other people in position. So you free up some space for you to pick up that next income source. But it all comes down to, are you acquiring liabilities like your house, your car, your toys, or are you buying assets, and are you creating something that's going to make you more money down the future? So I definitely think Obby is a guy to follow. And he's got some great content. His shows, I think, will be a great resource for you. But Obby, also, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, yep, this is my next step, this is what I need, where's the best place for them to go to connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. I would say let's have a conversation, because the 20 minutes that we've had today is really should just be an eye-opening experience to understand I'm an entrepreneur, right? If I'm listening to this, I'm in the mindset of I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, and I need to make sure that my financial future is handled. Social Security is not going to be there for us when we grow up, right? We have 10,000 baby boomers that are retiring every single day. That means, and every baby boomer costs us a couple $1,000s a month. That means if you do the math, you have like $2 trillion leaving just out the door as a line item every single year. That's it. If there's no alarm bell that's greater than that, go to like the usdebtclock.com. So here's the thing. The conversation starts at home. If the conversation starts here, I would say go to bookwithobby.com. And you can schedule 15 minutes to connect. It's going to be me on the phone. It's going to be an awesome time. I would love to get to know you a little bit more. And let's have the conversation about business and entrepreneurship and what investing really means for you. And then allow me to provide a framework so that you can go use it by yourself. I'm very blessed and lucky in the sense that I don't have anything for sale. I don't offer a $50,000 coaching program or anything like that. I'm really interested in your success, because as a result of your success, we have a higher probability of a more stable financial future for this country. And I love that component. You can also go to my website. You can listen to some of the radio shows and some of the talks that I do. Go to abhigolhar.com. That's abhigolhar.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on. This was thoroughly an enjoyable conversation to have. And Nerd Power, we're going to have to say, stay in touch and stay connected. For those of you who are watching, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We bring great interviews out every Tuesday and Thursday. You get my how-to tips in between. And really, this is a resource for you to be able to have what you need to be able to grow your business. So get plugged in, join the private Facebook community, the CEO Spot on Facebook, and share the video. So like, comment, share, subscribe, join, do all the things. And we hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you, Abby, again for being on.
Hey, Amy, thank you so much. Live long and prosper.
Awesome.